Imagine this. You're at a party, a meeting, or maybe a casual get-together. You're standing there, surrounded by people, and the small talk begins to bubble up. You've been here before, nervous, anxious, unsure of what to say. The fear of sounding boring creeps in. You rack your brain for something interesting to say, but everything seems flat, uninspired. And then the awkward silence sets in. How many times have you been in a conversation where it felt like you were just going through the motions, trying to come up with the next thing to say, but feeling like the conversation is just stuck? Here's the truth. You don't have to be stuck in small talk purgatory anymore. You don't have to cringe when you think about your next conversation. You don't have to keep falling back on the same tired questions and awkward comments just to fill the silence. What if I told you that the secret to not being boring in conversation isn't about having a wealth of random facts or knowing what's trending on Twitter? What if I told you that you already have everything you need to be interesting, engaging, and memorable? What if the solution lies in how you approach conversation? Not just the words you say, but the mindset and strategy behind them. In this audiobook, Small Talk God, How to Stop Being Boring in Conversation, we are going to change the way you think about small talk. We're not here to make you feel like you need to constantly entertain people or always be the life of the party. No, this isn't about performing. This is about connecting. Small talk doesn't have to be small at all. In fact, it can be a gateway to meaningful, deep conversations. But how do you get there? It starts with mindset. Small talk isn't just about chatting to fill the void. It's an opportunity to make someone feel seen, to make a new connection, to spark a conversation that doesn't just pass the time, but actually matters. And yes, it's a skill that can be developed. Have you ever thought about the emotional asterisk side of small talk? Not just the questions you ask, but the feelings you want to evoke in the person you're speaking with? The simple act of engaging someone in conversation with genuine interest and enthusiasm can completely change how you're perceived and how the conversation flows. This isn't just about getting through the awkward bits. This isn't about memorizing a list of icebreakers. This is about transforming your approach to conversations, from feeling boring to becoming someone who's not just an interesting person, but someone who makes conversations exciting. Let's face it, we all want to be memorable in a good way. We want to walk away from conversations feeling like we've made an impact. And it's possible to do that without turning into a professional talk show host. It's about finding your natural flow, your authentic way to connect with others. If you've ever felt like you don't have anything to say, or worse, that people think you're dull in conversations, this audiobook is for you. If you ever caught yourself in that dreaded cycle of small talk and realize you don't even know what you talked about once the conversation ends, this audiobook is for you. And if you've ever been curious about how to make your conversations more interesting, meaningful, and even fun, then this audiobook is definitely for you. Throughout this audiobook, you'll learn key how to engage people naturally without feeling like you're forcing it. Key how to shift your mindset from I'm boring to I'm someone who adds value to conversations. Key the mental tools and strategies that will make you confident in every situation. Key how to find common ground with anyone you meet, no matter the context. Key the key listening techniques that will make you a magnetic conversational partner. Key the power of telling stories and how to make them memorable without sounding rehearsed. And most importantly, by the end of this audiobook, you'll have a new understanding of yourself as a small talk god, someone who approaches conversations with confidence, curiosity, and the ability to keep people engaged. We're not here to teach you to be someone else. We're here to show you how to unlock the version of yourself that is already capable of amazing conversations, one where you stand out, not by shouting for attention, but by making others feel heard, valued, and connected. So, if you ever felt that sinking feeling of being the boring one in the conversation, the one stuck with awkward silences, or the one who just can't seem to keep a conversation alive, don't worry anymore. We're going to shift all that. We're going to make small talk your superpower. Are you ready to transform how you speak and listen? Then, let's dive in and change the way you talk forever. Chapter 1. The Art of Small Talk, Breaking the Ice with Confidence. We've all been in that situation. Standing in a room full of strangers, feeling like a deer caught in headlights. The weight of the first few moments of conversation can feel like a mountain to climb. And let's be honest, Sometimes it feels like we're about to fall flat on our faces. But here's the first piece of good news. Starting small talk doesn't have to be hard. The most common mistake people make is overthinking it. We imagine we need to have something profound or perfect to say, or that we need to impress someone from the get-go. This pressure only adds stress to an otherwise simple interaction. In reality, small talk is about setting the tone for a conversation, not about delivering a performance. And guess what? You already have the tools to do this. It all begins with confidence. When we think of small talk, we often think of filling silence with words. But what if I told you that small talk isn't just about talking? It's about creating connection. So, how do you make a great first impression without overloading your brain with anxiety? Let's break it down. 1.1 The power of a smile, your secret icebreaker. It's incredible how much a simple smile can shift the energy in a room. It's disarming. It's warm. It's approachable. A smile doesn't just make you look more attractive. It also makes you feel more confident. Smiling signals that you're open, friendly, and ready to engage, and that energy is contagious. Before you even say a word, start with a smile. It sets a welcoming tone for the conversation and makes it easier for the other person to feel at ease. Confidence doesn't come from knowing exactly what to say. It comes from how you make the other person feel. So, next time you enter a new social situation, focus on giving yourself the gift of a genuine smile before anything else. Not only will it relax you, but it will also invite others to engage with you in a more open way. 1.2 Asking open-ended questions. The gateway to meaningful conversations. One of the best ways to start a conversation is by asking open-ended questions. Open-ended questions are the key to unlocking deeper dialogue because they can't be answered with simple yes or no. These questions prompt the other person to share more about themselves, which naturally leads to more engaging interaction. Examples of open-ended questions include: what brought you here today? How do you know the host? What's the most interesting thing that's happened to you recently? The magic here is that you're giving the other person the space to express themselves, which makes them feel valued and heard. Plus, the more they talk, the less you need to worry about running out of things to say. But here's the kicker. Really listen to their response. Your next question should come from something they say, which helps you show genuine curiosity. This will naturally lead to a flow of conversation where both people feel involved. 1.3 The 5-second rule. Overcoming the fear of the first word. Often, the hardest part of small talk is starting. The longer you stand there in silence, the more your anxiety builds and the more awkward the situation feels. But here's a little secret. Once you speak the first word, the rest gets easier. This is where the 5-second rule comes in. When you spot someone you want to talk to, give yourself just 5 seconds to push through that moment of hesitation and make the first move, whether it's a smile or a question. Get your mouth moving before your mind convinces you to retreat into silence. This rule works like a charm because it stops you from overthinking and keeps you in the present moment. You've already set the intention, now just act on it. The longer you wait, the more difficult it becomes. After those first 5 seconds, the conversation will likely begin to flow naturally, and any nerves you were feeling will start to dissipate. 1.4 Mastering the 60-40 rule. Talking less, listening more. If you're worried about being boring in conversation, here's one simple tip. Talk less, listen more. Most people think that the key to engaging small talk is about being the one who talks the most, filling the silence with witty remarks, clever observations, or random facts. But the truth is, people love to talk about themselves, and they find it interesting when you listen deeply. The 60-40 rule is your guide. You should aim to listen 60% of the time and talk only 40%. When you listen with intent, you show genuine interest in the other person, and this makes them feel valued. Listening deeply doesn't just mean hearing their words. It means actively engaging with what they're saying. Ask follow-up questions that show you're paying attention, and make sure to nod or react to their responses. This signals to the other person that you care and keeps the conversation dynamic. 1.5 Overcoming awkward silence. How to keep the flow going. Every conversation will have pauses, some longer than others. But here's the thing. Awkward silences are just a natural part of conversation, and they don't have to be something to fear. Instead, Use them as an opportunity to shift gears or change the direction of the conversation. If you sense the silence stretching out, don't panic. You can reframe the moment. A great way to do this is by referencing something from earlier in the conversation, making a lighthearted comment, or transitioning to a related topic. If the conversation has gone a little dry, it's perfectly okay to bring up something completely new. Example: so, outside of topic you're discussing, what do you like to do for fun? I've heard a lot about topic recently. What's your take on it? These small adjustments can keep the conversation feeling fresh and natural. 1.6 Don't try too hard. Just be yourself. Ultimately, the most important thing to remember is this: don't try to be someone you're not. You don't need to have a dazzling repertoire of jokes, be a walking trivia machine, or have some grand life story. People are drawn to authenticity. Just be yourself, show interest, and let the conversation unfold naturally. If you try too hard to impress, you'll likely come across as disingenuous, and the conversation will feel forced. But when you show up as your true self, others can sense it. They'll appreciate your effort to connect, and they'll feel more comfortable opening up in return. In summary, mastering small talk is about more than knowing what to say. It's about setting the tone for a connection, being confident, asking engaging questions, and listening more than you speak. Once you get past the initial hesitation and embrace the art of conversation, the rest becomes easy. In the next chapter, we'll talk about the mental shift you need to make in order to move from boring to engaging in every conversation. It's time to leave behind the mindset that holds you back and step into a new world where you are always interesting. Chapter 2, the mindset shift from boring to engaging. Let's get real for a second. How many times have you found yourself sitting in a conversation, feeling like the words you're saying are just filling the space, not adding any value? You know, those conversations where you're talking, but inside you're thinking, I'm so boring. Why did I even say that? The truth is, the way you think about yourself is everything when it comes to your conversations. If you convince yourself that you're boring, then your conversations will reflect that. The energy you project, the way you engage, and even the words you choose all stem from your mindset. But here's the secret. You can change your mindset and change your conversations. Let's dive into how to shift from thinking of yourself as boring to adopting the mindset of someone who naturally engages others, no matter what the conversation topic is. 2.1 The power of positive self-talk. Your inner voice matters. First things first, how you talk to yourself. If you've ever found yourself thinking things like, I'm so awkward, I have nothing interesting to say, I always say the wrong thing, people probably find me boring, then it's no wonder your conversations feel dull and strained. Self-talk is powerful. The things you tell yourself shape your reality, and that includes how you show up in conversations. If you walk into a social situation thinking, I'm boring, guess what? You're already setting yourself up to deliver a conversation that's just as dull. Instead, try this shift. I have interesting experiences and perspectives to share. I'm confident in who I am, and I can connect with anyone. Every conversation is an opportunity to learn something new. This isn't about faking it until you make it. It's about believing that you have something valuable to offer. The more you practice positive self-talk, the more natural it becomes to engage others with authenticity and confidence. And guess what? People love engaging with someone who is genuinely confident in themselves. 2.2 Reframing boring as authentic. The reason so many people feel boring in conversations is because they're comparing themselves to others. We live in a world where we're constantly exposed to the highlight reels of people's lives on social media, movies, and TV shows. It's easy to believe that to be interesting, we have to be flashy, overly charismatic, or have jaw-dropping stories to tell. But here's the truth. Authenticity is more engaging than perfection. When you try to be someone you're not, whether pretending to be an expert on a topic you don't care about or forcing yourself into an extroverted role that feels unnatural, you actually become less interesting. Why? Because people can sense when you're being inauthentic. Instead, try embracing your natural self. Whether you're shy, introverted, or a little awkward, there's something unique about your perspective, and that's what will draw people in. Authenticity is magnetic, and people connect with others who are genuine, not who they pretend to be. 2.3 Curiosity over confidence. How shifting focus makes you engaging. You don't need to be the loudest, most entertaining person in the room to captivate someone. In fact, the most interesting people are the ones who are genuinely curious. Think about it. When someone is curious about you, doesn't it feel great to talk to them? You can feel their interest and enthusiasm. It makes you want to share more, to open up, to engage. And guess what? The same thing happens when you shift your focus from yourself to the person in front of you. Instead of worrying about how you're coming across or what you're going to say next, turn your attention to the other person. Ask thoughtful questions. Show that you're interested in learning about their experiences and perspectives. This approach will naturally make you more engaging because you're giving the other person a gift of feeling heard and valued. You don't have to know everything. You just need to be curious. 2.4 Letting go of perfection. The power of imperfection. There's one huge thing that stops people from engaging fully in conversations. The fear of saying the wrong thing. We've all been there, right? You say something and instantly wish you could take it back. You worry you might offend someone or that you'll sound silly. So what do? We hold back. We hesitate. We stay on the surface level to avoid making any missteps. Here's a little secret. Perfection is the enemy of progress in conversation. If you wait until you have the perfect thing to say, you'll never speak up. Imperfection is human, and it's what makes us relatable. It's okay to make a joke that doesn't land. It's okay to ask a question that's a little off. Those moments are the ones that bring realness to your conversations. So, let go of the need to be perfect. Embrace the messiness of real connection. Your imperfections are part of what make you interesting. 2.5 Transforming fear into fuel. How to use nervousness to your advantage. Nervous about small talk? Here's a trick. Use that nervous energy. It's normal to feel some level of anxiety before a conversation, especially with someone new. But instead of thinking of that feeling as something negative, reframe it as excitement. That's right. The same physiological response we have to nervousness is similar to the response we have to excitement. It's a high energy state. When you feel your heart race or your palms get sweaty, remind yourself that this is simply your body preparing you to engage. It's not a sign that you're not good enough. It's a sign that you're ready to connect. Channel that energy into enthusiasm for conversation, and suddenly, that fear becomes fuel. 2.6 The importance of self-compassion. Letting go of self-judgment. Finally, let's talk about self-compassion. How often do you beat yourself up after a conversation? Do you replay every awkward moment in your head, wondering what you could have done better? Here's the thing. Everyone feels awkward sometimes. Everyone says the wrong thing. But you can't let that stop you from trying again. Give yourself grace. Instead of judging yourself for every misstep, treat yourself like you're a friend who made a mistake, kindly and with understanding. The more compassionate you are with yourself, the more confident and engaging you'll become in future conversations. In summary, shifting your mindset from boring to engaging starts with how you view yourself. Confidence, curiosity, and authenticity are the foundation of great conversations. When you believe in your own value and approach others with genuine interest, you'll find that small talk becomes a tool for connection, not something to dread. In the next chapter, we'll dive into how listening, yes, listening, can be the secret to mastering small talk, because the most powerful conversationalists are those who know how to truly listen. Chapter 3. Listening like a pro. Why your ears are more important than your mouth. We've all heard the phrase, God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. But let's pause and think about that for a second. What does it really mean? In the context of small talk and conversation, it's not just about listening to hear. It's about listening to understand. So many of us, myself included, have fallen into the trap of waiting for our turn to speak. The pressure to sound interesting, to offer something witty, or to share our own experiences takes over. And before we know it, we've missed out on what the other person was really saying. But great conversation doesn't come from talking. It comes from listening, and doing so with intention, attention, and empathy. You see, conversations are not a competition. They're collaboration. And the best collaborators know how to listen, really listen. When you start to listen with full engagement, the conversation transforms. You stop filling the silence with your own words, and instead, you make the other person feel truly heard. Imagine, just for a moment, that you're talking to someone who's really listening to you, not just nodding and waiting for their turn to speak, but actually absorbing what you're saying, reacting with empathy, and asking thoughtful follow-up questions. How does it make you feel? Amazing, right? That's what you want to create for the people you talk to. And guess what? When you make others feel heard and understood, they will never forget the way you made them feel. It's not your words they'll remember. It's a connection, the validation, the feeling of being truly seen. That's the magic of active listening. 3.1 Active listening, more than just nodding along. Let's break it down. When I say active listening, what do you think of? Most of us assume it's just about staying quiet while someone else talks, right? Maybe nodding occasionally to show we're paying attention. But active listening is so much more. It's about being fully present. It's about tuning in with your whole body, your eyes, your posture, your facial expressions. Every part of you should be engaged in the conversation, reflecting back the interest and respect you have for the speaker. And here's a key. Active listening means asking thoughtful, open-ended questions based on what the other person says. If someone shares a story about a trip they took, for example, you don't just nod and say, "That's cool." You dig deeper and say something like, "What was the most unexpected part of the trip for you?" Or, "How did that experience change you?" Why is this so powerful? Because it shows the other person that you care about their experience. You're not just hearing their words. You're engaging with their emotions and thoughts. When you listen actively, you become more than just a passive participant in the conversation. You become an active co-creator of the dialogue. 3.2 The mirror effect. Reflecting back what you hear. One of the most effective tools in active listening is the mirror effect. Reflecting back what you've heard in your own words. This is a simple technique that's powerful in fostering deeper connection. It tells the other person, "I'm paying attention and I understand." For example, let's say someone tells you about a tough decision they had to make at work. Instead of jumping in with your own story or advice, you could respond with something like, "It sounds like you had to choose between two equally important priorities, and that really weighed on you. What did you just do?" You mirrored their experience. You took their words and gave them back, showing them that you were not only hearing the details, but understanding the emotional weight of the situation. This small act makes a huge difference in how connected someone feels to you. Reflecting back isn't about parroting their words. It's about engaging with their emotional experience. You're saying, "I get it. I'm here, and I'm with you." 3.3 Empathy, the heart of listening. Now, let's take a step further. Empathy. Empathy is the key that turns a regular conversation into something deeper, something memorable. It's what separates good listeners from great listeners. When you listen with empathy, you don't just hear the words, you feel the emotion behind them. You understand the speaker's point of view, and you connect with their experience. It's about more than just acknowledging what's being said. It's about putting yourself in their shoes and responding with compassion. Think about a time when you've shared something personal with someone, and they genuinely responded with empathy. They didn't just give advice, they simply understood. How did it make you feel? That's the kind of listener you want to be. Empathy doesn't always require you to offer a solution or fix things. Often it's just about saying, "I hear you," and acknowledging the person's feelings. You'd be amazed at how powerful is simple. That sounds really tough. I can't imagine how hard that must have been, can be. 3.4 The power of silence. Allowing the space for depth. Now, this one might sound a bit counterintuitive, but silence is one of the most underrated tools in effective listening. We live in a world where we're constantly rushing to fill silence with words. We're terrified of pauses. But here's the truth. Silence can be an invitation. When you allow for a moment of quiet in a conversation, you're giving the other person space to continue, to dig deeper, to think. It creates an opening for them to share more, without the pressure of you filling every gap. Remember, it's not about keeping the conversation going at all costs. It's about creating a space where the other person feels comfortable to open up even more. If you're listening actively, those pauses won't feel awkward. They'll feel natural. And they'll lead to a more meaningful exchange. 3.5 Listening to learn, not to respond. Most of us listen with an agenda. We're waiting for our turn to talk. But truly effective listeners listen to learn, not to respond. When you listen with the intention of understanding, not just replying, you'll find that your conversations go deeper and are more enriching. Try this next time. Instead of thinking about what you're going to say next, focus entirely on the other person's words. Absorb them. Process them. This doesn't mean you can't have your own thoughts or opinions. It just means that in that moment, you're giving the other person your full, undivided attention. The more you practice this, the more natural it will become. And soon, you'll notice that your conversations shift. They become richer, more engaging, and far more connected. People will appreciate you for being a listener they can rely on, someone who truly understands them. In summary, remember, listening is an art, and like all arts, it takes practice. But the payoff is enormous. By mastering the skill of listening, you instantly become more interesting, more connected, and more engaging in your conversations. You stop being the person who talks over others and start being the person people turn to because they feel heard by you. In the next chapter, we'll talk about how to go beyond the basics of small talk and find common ground with anyone, anywhere, so you can build connections that last. Chapter 4, Finding Common Ground, How to Connect with Anyone, Anywhere. Have you ever found yourself in a conversation with someone? Try your best to keep things flowing, but you just can't seem to find anything to connect on? Maybe you've talked about the weather, the event you're both at, or the food you're eating, but everything feels superficial. It's like you're circling around each other, but never quite getting to the heart of the conversation. What if I told you that the secret to making any conversation interesting is finding common ground? In this chapter, we're going to unlock the power of common ground, how it's the foundation for creating a natural, engaging conversation and building real connections, no matter the context or the person you're talking to. It's not about having the same job, background, or interests. It's about discovering the spaces where your worlds overlap, even just for a moment. For point one, what is common ground, and why does it matter? Common ground is the shared space between two people. It's the place where your thoughts, interests, or experiences overlap. When you find it, everything changes in conversation. It's the shift from awkward small talk to an actual exchange of ideas. It's what transforms a simple chat into something memorable. And here's the thing. Common ground is everywhere, if you know how to find it. The reason common ground works so well is that it creates a sense of shared experience. It makes both people feel like they're not alone. Whether you're talking about the event you're at, a book you both read, or even a mutual friend you share, when you find something you both connect on, you're no longer strangers. You're two people who have something in common. This builds rapport. For point two, start with the environment. It's the perfect conversation starter. Let's talk about how to actually find common ground. One of the easiest ways to do this, especially with someone you don't know, is by looking at your immediate environment. Start with what's around you, whether you're at a party, a work event, a cafe, or even an elevator. The environment is your goldmine for conversation starters. The beauty of this is that it immediately gives you something to work with, and it's a great way to break the ice. Here are a few examples. At an event, how did you hear about this event? In a coffee shop, I love their iced lattes here. Do you come often? At a party, how do you know host name? In an elevator, what floor are you heading to? I always forget where I'm going in this building. These questions are direct, easy to ask, and they tie back to the shared space you're in. The conversation will naturally evolve from there as you and the other person discuss the event, the location, or any shared experiences related to your surroundings. 4.3 Shared Interests. You don't have to have the same hobby to connect. Another powerful way to find common ground is by exploring shared interests. Now, you might be thinking, but what if we have nothing in common? What if our interests are completely different? Here's the truth. You don't have to have the same exact interests to find common ground. You just need to find a related area to explore. Whether it's a passion for travel, movies, sports, music, or even food, there's always a connection waiting to happen. The trick is to ask the right questions and then follow up based on what the other person shares. Maybe they're into hiking and you've never hiked a day in your life. But if you share an interest in nature or the outdoors, that's your entry point. You don't have to be an expert in their hobby. You just need to express interest. For example, I've always wanted to try hiking. What do you love about it? What's your favorite trail? I'm looking for suggestions on new outdoor activities. Notice how you're not pretending to be an expert in their field. You're simply curious and engaging. That curiosity opens doors. 4.4 Shared experiences. From travel to life's little moments. Sometimes the best common ground comes from shared life experiences. These are the moments, feelings, and situations that we've all gone through at some point. Whether dealing with a difficult work project, navigating the challenges of family life, or even enjoying the excitement of a favorite vacation spot. The beauty of shared experiences is that they allow you to connect on a deeper level beyond the surface of hobbies or interests. For example, think about how powerful it is when you meet someone who's been to the same place you have. I went to Paris last summer. Have you ever been? I'm always battling to stay on top of my emails. How do you manage your inbox? These questions tap into a universal experience that opens a door for more personal sharing. By talking about something familiar to both parties, you can create a deeper connection without having to dig into highly specific personal details. 4.5 Emotional common ground. Connecting on a feeling level. At the heart of every great conversation is a shared emotional experience. People don't just remember facts and details. They remember how you made them feel. The key here is to engage on an emotional level. You can connect with someone based on how they feel about something, not just the facts surrounding it. For example, if someone talks about a stressful project they're working on, instead of just offering advice or jumping into your own experiences, try saying something like, "That sounds really stressful. I can't imagine how overwhelming that must feel." You've acknowledged their emotions, which brings a sense of comfort and validation. People connect deeply to emotions because they're universal. You might also express how something makes you feel, especially when talking about something that moves you or excites you. For example, I absolutely love the excitement of starting a new project. It always makes me feel energized. Expressing genuine enthusiasm about an emotion can foster an immediate sense of connection because it shows you're not just talking about the facts. You're talking about what truly matters to both of you. 4.6 The art of sharing and asking for more. Once you find common ground, the next step is to keep the conversation alive. Share something of your own that relates to the topic, and then ask the other person to share more. This creates a cycle of mutual exchange and engagement. For example, if the other person talks about a recent trip, you might say, "That sounds amazing. I've always wanted to go there. The last time I traveled, I went to a place and had such an unforgettable experience." Then follow up by asking, "Have you ever had a trip that changed the way you see the world?" By sharing something personal and then asking them to share more, you create a conversational rhythm that encourages a deeper connection. In summary, common ground is a secret sauce to successful small talk. Whether through shared interests, experiences, or emotions, connecting with others is easier than you think. It's all about finding the spaces where your worlds overlap and exploring them with curiosity, openness, and respect. The next chapter will show you how to master body language and how nonverbal cues can enhance your ability to connect even more deeply. Body language speaks volumes, and when you learn how to use it effectively, your conversations will become even more dynamic and engaging. Are you ready to unlock the power of your body in conversation? Chapter 5, Mastering Body Language, How to Use Nonverbal Cues to Your Advantage. You've probably heard the saying, actions speak louder than words. Well, when it comes to conversation, body language speaks even louder than your voice. Whether you realize it or not, your body is constantly sending signals to the people around you, sometimes even before you've said a word. And those signals, they matter a lot. In fact, studies show that over 90% of communication is nonverbal, meaning that everything from your posture to your eye contact is telling a story. And if you don't understand the language of your own body, you might be sending the wrong message. Think about it. Have you ever talked to someone who seems totally disinterested or disengaged, even though they're nodding along and saying all the right things? That's the power of body language. The words might say one thing, but the body says something completely different. But don't worry. We're not just going to leave you here thinking about how to decode others. This chapter is about mastering your own body language, how to use it to your advantage, and create more engaging dynamic conversations. 5.1 The power of eye contact. Making a connection without saying a word. Let's start with one of the most powerful nonverbal tools in your arsenal, eye contact. Eye contact is the ultimate tool for building rapport, showing interest, and keeping the conversation grounded in connection. When you make eye contact with someone, you're not just looking at them. You're acknowledging their presence, signaling to them that they matter, and showing that you're genuinely engaged. But here's the catch. Eye contact isn't about staring them down or looking too intense. It's about balance, about holding their gaze long enough to create connection, but not so long that it becomes uncomfortable. The key is to maintain natural eye contact, not staring like a deer in headlights, but offering a brief, comfortable gaze as you listen or speak. Aim for about 50 to 60% eye contact during the conversation. This allows you to appear present, focused, and invested without feeling like you're locking them in a trance. And don't forget to occasionally glance away. It's natural and keeps the conversation from feeling too intense. The goal is connection, not intimidation. 5.2 Posture. Standing tall, sitting proud. Next up, posture. The way you hold your body speaks volumes about how you feel and how you want to be perceived in a conversation. If you're slouching or folding your arms, it gives off an unconscious signal of disinterest, discomfort, or even defensiveness. But when you stand tall with your shoulders back and your chest open, you convey confidence, warmth, and openness. When you sit up straight, it shows that you're alert and engaged. Your body is sending the message that you're ready to participate, ready to listen, and ready to connect. Here's a tip. When you meet someone for the first time, make an effort to stand or sit with open posture. This doesn't mean you need to throw your arms wide or sit like you're in a power pose, but opening your body, uncrossing your arms and legs, communicates that you're approachable and willing to interact. 5.3 Gestures. Adding energy to your words. Gestures are another powerful aspect of body language. They can amplify your words, helping to express your emotions and add energy to your conversation. Think about the most engaging people you've spoken with. They probably use their hands, facial expressions, or posture to emphasize the points they were making. Here's the key. Use gestures that feel natural to you. Don't force it. Let your body speak the way it wants to. The more you engage your body, the more animated and engaging your conversation becomes. A little hand movement can make your storytelling more vivid. A smile or a nod as you speak shows that you're emotionally invested in the topic. The trick is to use your body to enhance the message you're communicating, not to distract from it. For example, if you're talking about a trip you took, use your hands to mimic the size of the mountain you climbed or to show the excitement you felt during an experience. If you're listening to someone share a story, lean in slightly to show you're involved and nod your head to acknowledge the importance of what they're saying. Your gesture should feel authentic and in the moment. Let them flow naturally with the conversation. They help people connect emotionally with what you're saying. 5.4 Mirroring. The secret to creating rapport. Here's one of the easiest ways to instantly build rapport in a conversation. Mirroring. Mirroring is the act of subtly matching the other person's body language, whether it's their posture, gestures, or even their speech patterns. Why does this work? Because when we mirror others, we subconsciously signal that we are on the same wavelength, that we're in sync. It makes the other person feel more comfortable, more relaxed, and more likely to open up. But don't overdo it. Mirroring should feel natural, not like you're copying someone. If they lean in a little too. If they smile, mirror that smile. If they sit with their arms crossed, don't immediately copy that. Instead, keep your body language open and flexible, but subtly reflect their energy. The goal is to make the conversation feel like a shared experience, where both people are engaged and attuned to each other. 5.5 Facial expressions, the window to your emotions. Your face is one of the most powerful tools in your body language arsenal. Facial expressions give away what you're feeling, and they can also make your conversation much more engaging. Think about how people's faces light up when they talk about something they're passionate about. Their emotions spill out into their expressions, and it draws you in. Here's a simple rule. Let your face match your words. If you're telling an exciting story, let your face show it. If you're talking about something serious, allow your facial expression to reflect that mood as well. Your eyes, your eyebrows, and even the slight tilt of your head all give signals about what you're feeling, and people notice. Don't hide your emotions behind a blank face. Let your genuine interest and enthusiasm shine through. It doesn't mean you have to overdo it. Just be mindful of how your face reflects the feelings behind your words. This will humanize the conversation and create a stronger connection with your conversation partner. 5.6 The importance of personal space. Respecting boundaries. Last but not least, let's talk about personal space. Every culture has different norms around how much physical space is considered comfortable in conversation. But understanding and respecting personal space is essential to creating a safe, comfortable environment for your conversation. If you're too close, it can feel invasive and make the other person uncomfortable. Too far away, and it can create a sense of distance and disconnection. The sweet spot is about arm's length away, a space where both people feel comfortable. Pay attention to the other person's body language to see if they're leaning in, which indicates they're open to conversation, or they're pulling away, which might mean they need more space. Chapter 6. Telling stories that stick. How to make your conversations unforgettable. Close your eyes for a moment and think about the best conversations you've ever had. Chances are those conversations weren't about facts or small talk. They were about stories. Stories that transported you to another world, made you laugh, made you feel something deep, or even changed the way you see the world. That's the power of storytelling. Stories are unforgettable. They're the thread that ties all of our experiences together, the glue that bonds us to each other as humans. When you tell a story, you're not just relaying information. You're creating an emotional experience. In this chapter, we're going to unlock the art of storytelling. But more than that, we're going to talk about how to make your stories so captivating, so memorable, that they leave a lasting impression long after conversation is over. Ready to transform the way you connect with others through stories? Let's dive in. 6.1 The anatomy of a great story. First, let's break down the anatomy of a great story. Every unforgettable tale has a structure, whether it's a funny anecdote or a life-changing experience. Stories have a flow that keeps people engaged. Here's the basic structure. The setting. Where does the story take place? What's the backdrop? The conflict. What challenge, problem, or tension is at the heart of the story? The resolution. How does the situation get resolved, and what's the takeaway? Think about your favorite stories. Chances are they follow this basic structure in some way. It doesn't matter if the story is about a wild adventure, a deep personal challenge, or just a funny moment. There's always a beginning, a middle, and an end. To make your story engaging, you need to paint a vivid picture for your listener. Instead of just saying, "I went on a trip," say something like, "I remember the first time I stepped onto a small boat in the middle of the Amazon rainforest, surrounded by nothing but dense trees and the sound of the river flowing." By providing details, the sights, sounds, smells, and emotions you experienced, you transport your listener into your world. And when they feel like they're there with you, they're hooked. 6.2 Show, don't just tell. The golden rule of storytelling is showing, not just telling. What does that mean? Instead of simply telling your audience what happened, let them experience it through your words. Instead of saying, "I was nervous," describe how your hands were shaking or how your heart raced. Instead of saying, "It was a beautiful day," talk about the warmth of the sun, the breeze on your face, and the colors of the sky. Great stories are immersive. The more sensory details you add, the more your listeners can feel what you felt. They become a part of the story. 6.3 The power of emotion. Why people remember how you make them feel. People forget facts, but they never forget how you made them feel. Emotion is what makes a story stick. When you tap into your listeners' emotions, you create a powerful, lasting impression. It's why some stories make us laugh until we cry, while others leave us speechless or inspired. But how do you do that? You connect the story to universal emotions. Things like joy, fear, love, loss, excitement, or hope. Think about how you can weave emotion into your stories. For example, fear. As I stood there, waiting for the elevator to arrive, my mind raced with all the things that could go wrong. What if I wasn't ready for this moment? What if they didn't like me? Joy. And then when the curtain finally rose, I saw the audience's faces light up. It wasn't just a performance. There was a look of awe and happiness that filled the room. I had never felt more alive. By linking the story to emotions, you make the experience relatable. Your audience can see themselves in the story, feel what you felt, and remember it long after. 6.4 Keep it simple. The art of the punchline. Every great story has a punchline, something that sticks with the listener and ties everything together. A punchline doesn't always have to be funny. It can be a deep lesson, an unexpected twist, or even a meaningful reflection on what you've shared. For example, you could be telling a story about a trip where everything went wrong. Maybe you got lost, missed a flight, or had a disaster at the hotel. And then, at the end, you hit them with the punchline. But when I look back on that trip, I realize it wasn't about the destination. It was about learning to enjoy the journey. That's the point where your listener's brain goes, aha, that's what this story was really about. The punchline brings the story to a close, but it leaves a lasting thought in your listener's mind. It's the final piece of the puzzle that brings everything together. 6.5 Making your story relatable. The bridge between you and your listener. The key to making your story memorable is ensuring your listener can relate to it. Even if you're talking about something that seems personal or specific, your goal is to find universal themes that people can connect to. For example, you may be telling a story about a specific moment in your life. Maybe your first time moving to a new city. That might feel like a unique experience to you. But the emotions you felt, fear, excitement, uncertainty, are something everyone can relate to. As you share your story, think about how you can tie it back to something universal. The feeling of being out of your comfort zone. The joy of discovering something new. The challenges of starting over. By doing this, you're allowing your listener to feel connected to your story, even if their experiences are different from yours. It's like you're inviting them into your world and saying, this is something we all go through. 6.6 Using humor to lighten the mood. When I add a dash of fun. Not every story has to be serious or dramatic. Humor can be one of the most powerful ways to make your story stick. The best storytellers know how to add lightness and wit to their narratives, making the conversation both engaging and fun. But here's the key. Don't force it. Humor should flow naturally from the story itself. If you're telling a funny anecdote, let the humor come from the absurdity of the situation, the people involved, or the unexpected twist. When you add humor to a story, it helps disarm your audience, making them feel more at ease and more willing to engage. Chapter 7. Overcoming Conversation Killers. How to avoid awkward moments. We've all been there. You're talking, everything's flowing smoothly, and then it happens. The awkward silence. The moment when the conversation screeches to a halt. Maybe it's a result of a misstep, a bad joke, or just one of those moments when you have absolutely no idea what to say next. You freeze. You feel the tension rising. And you know what happens next. The conversation dies. But here's the good news. You don't have to let these awkward moments define your conversations. The key to great conversations isn't just knowing what to say. It's knowing how to handle those bumps in the road when they come up. Because, let's face it, awkward moments happen to everyone. But what separates an experienced conversationalist from a nervous one is the ability to recover quickly and keep things moving forward. In this chapter, we're going to explore the most common conversation killers, those dreaded awkward silences, miscommunications, and oops moments, and most importantly, how to navigate them with grace, confidence, and a little humor. 7.1 The Awkward Silence. How to bounce back gracefully. There's nothing quite like an awkward silence to freeze the flow of a conversation. It's as if time slows down and you can feel the weight of every second ticking by, while your mind scrambles for something, anything to say. Here's the thing. Silence doesn't have to be your enemy. In fact, sometimes it's just a natural part of conversation, especially when the energy shifts. The key to handling these silences is not to panic. Give a moment. Let the silence breathe. If you're in an uncomfortable lull, resist the urge to fill the space with irrelevant chatter. Instead, embrace the pause. It's okay to take a breath and recalibrate. Then, steer the conversation back on course by doing one of the following. Ask a follow-up question. If the conversation slowed down on a particular topic, ask the other person something more specific about it. Example, you mentioned that you love hiking. What's the most scenic trail you've been on? Comment on the environment. Sometimes the best way to break the silence is by acknowledging the situation. Example, this place has such a cool vibe. Have you been here before? Add a personal story. Share a light anecdote or something that happened recently to fill the space. Example, I was just telling a friend about this crazy experience I had with topic. Have you ever had something like that happen? When you allow silence to pass naturally and then follow up with a light, engaging comment, you reestablish the rhythm of the conversation and make everyone feel more at ease. 7.2 Misunderstandings and mixed signals. How to recover from a slip-up. Let's face it, sometimes you say something and instantly you realize that came out wrong. Maybe you accidentally offend someone, or worse, say something that's completely out of context. But don't worry, everyone makes mistakes. The difference between a train wreck of a conversation and a smooth recovery is how you handle it when things go sideways. Here's what to do when you've misspoken or made an awkward comment. Own up to it. Don't pretend it didn't happen. Acknowledge it with a simple, oops, that didn't come out the way I meant. Acknowledging the mistake shows you're aware of it, and it'll disarm any awkwardness in the room. Apologize if necessary. If you said something offensive or hurtful, a quick, heartfelt apology is all it takes to smooth things over. It doesn't have to be long, just genuine. Example, I'm so sorry that sounded wrong. I really didn't mean it like that. Lighten the mood with humor. A well-timed laugh can ease tension and show that you're not taking yourself too seriously. Just make sure it's appropriate for the situation. Example, well, that's one way to make a conversation awkward, huh? Redirect the conversation. After you've addressed the slip-up, don't dwell on it. Shift back to the original topic or introduce a new subject. Example, let's change the topic. I've been meaning to ask you about new topic. By owning your mistake and addressing it with confidence and humor, you make it clear that you're a gracious conversationalist. People will respect your ability to recover, and they'll be much more comfortable around you. 7.3 Talking too much. How to give space for others. Have you ever caught yourself dominating a conversation, only to realize the other person hasn't said a word in minutes? Or worse, have you ever been stuck in a conversation where someone talks at you and never gives you the chance to speak? The conversation is a two-way street, and if you're doing all the talking, it's easy to lose a connection. The key to a successful conversation is balance. Both people need to share and listen equally. Here's how to make sure you're not monopolizing the conversation. Check in with the other person. Ask open-ended questions to involve them. If you've been talking for a while, shift focus back to them. Example, I've been rambling on about my travels. What about you? Any trips you've been wanting to take? Practice the 60-40 rule. Aim to listen 60% of the time and talk 40%. This ensures the conversation stays engaging and that both parties feel heard. Give them space to share. After asking a question, wait for a response. Don't rush in to fill the silence with your own words. Give them room to think and speak. A natural pause allows the other person to reflect and gives you a moment to process their response before reacting. When you balance the flow of conversation, you create a partnership where both people contribute, which keeps the dialogue engaging and enjoyable for everyone. 7.4 How to exit a conversation gracefully. There comes a point in almost every conversation where you may need to exit. Maybe you need to move on to another person, or maybe the conversation is naturally coming to an end. Either way, knowing how to exit without feeling like you're abandoning the conversation is an essential skill. Here's how to bow out gracefully. Express appreciation. Before you exit, thank the person for the conversation. Example, it's been really great talking with you. I'd love to catch up again sometime soon. Use the environment. If you're at an event, use the surroundings as an excuse to leave the conversation. Example, I'm going to grab a drink, but I'll catch up with you later. Suggest future engagement. Offer an opening for future conversation or interaction. Example, I've really enjoyed this chat. Let's definitely stay in touch. Don't over-explain. Sometimes less is more. You don't need to give a long-winded explanation. Just a simple, polite exit works best.